Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the third part of building your online portfolio. So in the last video we finished our navigation bar in here, and in this video we're going to do the hero section, something just like this. Right, so if we go back to the code where we left it, if you remember, we had a lot of styling in here. Look, that's quite a lot of styling that we had. And in my first video, I actually told you that this is not a good practice. And as you can see in here, look, just with the styling, look how big our file is starting to get. So the best thing to do right now is just move all of our styling, all our CSS to its independent folder. So for that, we're going to start a new file. We're going to go in here to File, New File, and we're going to save this. So first of all, let's create a new folder for our CSS. Let's name it CSS. And in here, we can do Save As, and we go inside of our CSS folder we just created, and let's name it, for example, style.css. You can give it any name that you would like, but it has to be with a .css. So let's save it. And now all of this code that we had here before, we can just cut this. You can use Ctrl X on your keyboard, or you can just like right click and cut. So we took everything out. We put it in here on this new file, style.css. Let's save it. Look at the circle. It means that we did changes on the file and it's still not saved. Let's save this as well. Let's remove this style because we don't need it anymore. And if we refresh the page, look, it's back to how it was before without any CSS. That's because we need to add here on our head section a link to our CSS file. So for that, we're going to go in here and we're going to do link. And look how Visual Studio Code has a lot of shortcuts for these kind of things. So you don't have to be typing all the time everything. So if you go in here, link CSS. So there you go. So we got link with a relationship of style sheet. So it means that this link will be a style sheet. And the href, it means that it's our actual path to our file. And our file is, if you go in here, it's next to our index.html, is next in this folder called CSS. So we're going to go in here and we're going to put CSS, and then we put /. It means that is inside of that folder CSS. If we go in here, CSS, and there you go, we got our file style.css. So this is the path that we should use. CSS, it's the name of the folder, / style.css. So if we save this, refresh the page, and there you go. Our styles are back in place. So this is what we wanted. So like the previous video, I told you that I was going to explain you a little bit of all this code in here that you don't really understand. So we can start, for example, with this doctype HTML. This bit of HTML code in here, it means that we are using the latest HTML available, which is the HTML5. And in HTML5, I actually did a video about it, it's called 5 interview questions that every web developer should know or something. So I talk about the new features of the HTML5, and some of them are actually having some different elements of HTML. So for example, instead of using a div, which is a container like I explained before, we can have different elements, like for example a nav element. So this nav element, it means that, okay, inside of this element we're gonna put our navigation bar, and it acts in it works exactly the same as a div, but in this case we have like a name, a specific name. So we know, okay, inside of this nav element I can put my navigation bar, you know. So it helps you like organize your code better. So for example, in here, instead of having a div, we can just like delete this, and we can just put a nav. Let me just delete this navigation that was here before, and look in here, just follow the line to make sure, and you go in here, oops, and nav. Okay, so now instead of using a div, we're going to use a HTML5 element called nav. So we know, okay, inside of this nav element, I'm going to put my navigation bar. So right now, we actually don't need to have this class, because we can just target on our CSS our navigation just with a nav element. So if you go in here and we just put nav, which is the element, and in here the same nav, okay. If we refresh the page, it's still the same. Okay, let me just like tidy this code a little bit. This is all good, all good, all good. Okay, so this is what it means, this code in here on the top. It means that we are using the HTML5. Now we have another thing that is very important. It's in here. It's called the title. The title of your website is very important because Google, when it's searching for your website, is going to look at your title and is going to say, okay, what kind of website is this one? And if you're going to put in here, for example, I'm going to put web developer Manchester. This is where I live in UK. So if I save it and look in here on the top on this tab where it was before document, if I refresh, now it's saying web developer Manchester. So if someone on Google is going to search like for web developer Manchester, my website, it will have a huge chance of showing up, you know. So that's it. So this is what the title means. So this is very important. It's a very important keyword. Okay, so now we build the navigation bar, and let's just put some comments. And I didn't cover this before, but comments is something that you can use on your code to help you organize everything, and you know, so you don't get lost, because sometimes you have so many lines of code that you will, if you go back after let's say 6 months or whatever, you don't really remember what's in there. And if you leave comments, it will help you, you know, like remember what is this about, and you know, just helping to make everything organized. So to make a comment, you just open with the brackets, exclamation, and we're going to put something like this. This is the navigation bar section, and then we close it with this. There you go. Oops, navigation. So if you refresh the page in here, nothing is, these comments, they don't show up on the page. It's just like for you to see on the code itself, to make sure you have everything organized and you know what is this section about or whatever. It's just to help you out, basically. So we put in here a comment for navigation bar section, and now we're going to start our header section. Okay, let me just organize this well. So now, instead of putting, for example, a div now for our hero section, we can actually use another HTML element called header. Header, and we're going to put just header in here as well. Like I said, it works exactly the same as a div, as a container, but you can give it a name so it's easier for you to understand. First of all, if we see in here on our page, look at this bit of a white space here on the top and on the sides. This is because the body, by default, they have some paddings and margins and whatever, and we don't want this. We want it to remove. So if we press F12 on our keyboard or right click and inspect on our developer tools in here, if we go to body, this is the body of our website, you can see in here look, it has a margin on the top, is even highlighted in here if you check. Has a margin top of 8 margin, it has a margin 8 pixels everywhere, so we don't want this. So let's go in here to our style, to our CSS, and we're going to put in here on the top body, and we're going to say we want all the margin to be 0. Just save it, refresh the page, and we got rid of all the white spaces around. So this is really good. Now, what do we want? So now, okay, so we have this. We want to have in our hero section a name, like a paragraph and a title. So let's start with a paragraph first. We go in here, we're going to put, hello, my name is Telmo. We save this, refresh, there you go. And after, we're going to put a title of full stack web developer. So full stack web developer. If I save, refresh, there you go. Okay, so now we need to put the actual image. Yeah, we still have these buttons. So for the buttons, we need to put these anchor tags. So we're going to put 2 of those. So I'm going to put in here view work, and in here I'm going to put contact me. I don't know if it's, yeah, it's all capitals. So let me put contact me. I'm going to refresh, and there you go. View work and contact me. These 2 elements, these 2 anchor elements, they are sitting together. You see, right next to each other, because like I explained in the last video, these ones in here have a display property of inline. So if they have only just inline, it means that they can sit next to each other. A paragraph, H1 element, by default, they have a display property of block. So they take the full width of the page. That's why in here, you see, we have the paragraph in here, and on the next line, we have our title. Okay, so now we're going to put our background image. And to put the background image, first of all, let's create in here in our folder a new folder called img, is like short for image. And inside, we're going to put, let me just put in here this image that I have. This is actually a picture that I took in my 3 months holidays in Asia. This was in Thailand, so it was quite nice. So I'm going to use this one. Right. Okay, so we go in here to our style. We're going to create, okay, first of all, look how this code is getting all a bit messy and confused. Now it's good for us to put some comments as well, you know, so we don't get lost with all of these things in here. Let me just organize this a little bit better. So in here, a comment in CSS. So I'm going to put in here navigation section. A comment in here, it's with a /*, and to close it is with a */. So if you put something like this, let me just put like, you go in here and you know, okay, this is the beginning of our navigation section. And just put all of these back here, okay. This is all the beginning of our navigation section, and now I'm going to put our header, or here, yeah, header section, header section. There you go. And in here now we can put our style. So you see, in here you start navigation section. You know, whatever is in here, it's going to be for our navigation section, and in here is going to be for our header section. So we're going to give a background image for our header HTML element in here. So let's target it, header, and I'm going to put background image. So it's going to be background image. We're going to put URL, and inside of the URL, we're going to put the path to our image, which is CSS. No, sorry, it's not CSS, it's img and hero.jpg. Let's put a semicolon in the end. Refresh. What's wrong in here? Let's see. Go to our header. Right, I put a wrong name, so it's hero. Let's refresh. Okay, so let's refresh, and okay, so this is not showing anything because this path in here, it's not correct, because this path is in consideration to our CSS file. So we are writing the code in here in this file. So relative to this file, where is our image? We need to go up one folder, and to do that we need to put 2 dots and a /. So what these 2 dots and / means, it is that we are in here in this folder writing down the code. We need to go up one. That's what we did in here with these 2 dots /. Then we need to go into the folder img. That's what we did. And then inside, this is the name of our file. It's hero, and then the file extension is a JPEG. So if we save this and we refresh the page, there you go. It's just showing this little bit of image in here. Don't worry, we're going to fix it now in a second. So look at this little bit of space in here on the top. Why is this happening? This is happening because if you go in here with the arrow and you select our paragraph that we put in here in the beginning, this paragraph, hello, my name is Telmo, has by default, like I said, some margin on the top. And this margin on the top is pushing away our header section from the navigation. So we don't want this. So we're gonna go in here on the header, and we're gonna put header, and inside of the header we have this paragraph, and we're gonna say I want the margin to be 0, all the margins. So if you refresh the page, it's fixed, you see. But now you are telling me, oh Telmo, but I don't want this in here on the top. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it now. So like I explained to you before, a div element, or for example in this case is our header element, which is exactly the same, just the name is changing. It's like an elastic band. The more things you put on it, the more it will increase, and the less things you will put, the more it will decrease. So if we want, we can put an actually width and height, a specific, like to force it, you know. So for example in here, if I want our header section to be a bit bigger, I can just go in here in style and go to header and say I want this height to be 500 pixels. And if we save, refresh the page, look how big it is now. But you don't see my image at all, because my image is so big that it doesn't fit in here. So for that, we can use this kind of code called background size. And I'm going to use the background size cover. Refresh. And what the background size cover, it means it will stretch your image all over the place to make sure that your container header is filled with the image. So it's going to push it to the maximum or all over the sides to make sure that we have an image all over around. So this is what the background size means. There are other other background sizes that you can check, like contain. Let's say, for example, if I put contain, save, it's almost the same, but it's different. It contains, it means it will just like try to have the full width of the image. And if you put like cover is going to like expand and make sure that all the container is going to be filled. So that's the main difference between them. Just have a try by yourself if you don't know this well. Okay, so we got this. We put it a height of 500 pixels. So no matter what, it's going to have always this 500 pixels height. But look in here, this little bit of image that it looks a little bit messed up. That's because your image sometimes can, when it's not big enough to fill up everything, it's going to like repeat the image. We don't want the image to repeat, so we're going to put background repeat. So background repeat, no repeat. So if you refresh the page, now it's gone. So the background is not repeating anymore. Okay, we have these, and what else? Okay, so now in our header section, let me just put this so we can see it a bit better. Okay. I want to put a div in here. To make sure we have all our text in here like centralized on the page. I'm going to give it a class of hero container, and in our CSS in here we're going to say hero container. I want everything that is inside of this hero container to have a text align of center. If we refresh the page, look, now all the text that is inside of this div that we just created, it will be centering the page, you know. So this is what we wanted, so it's working. But now, going back to the CSS box model, we want to push this a little bit down. We don't want it here on the top. So for that, what we can do is like, we are using our hero container. If we try, for example, to put a margin top of 50 pixels, refresh the page, look, now it's pushing our content away from the navigation bar, and this is not what we wanted. So what we wanted is using padding. So if you use the padding, look, now it's going down a little bit. So we want actually the padding to be 100 pixels. And if we refresh the page, now we got this in here. Okay, so now let's style our action buttons. So for that, let's give a class of, so this one is going to be btn work, and this one is going to be btn contact. Because we are giving it a class because, for example, if we are going in here and we're going to say inside of our header or inside of our hero container, let's say, we have some anchor elements and we want to have the color of blue. If we refresh the page, both of the anchor elements, they get targets and they get the color blue. So this is not what we wanted. We want to target them individually. So for that, we created the other classes. So this one will be btn work, and I want the background color to be, let's see, I want the background color to be this kind of green. This is like if you hover here with the mouse, you see how you can select some different color, and this is like the hexadecimal number of the color. So CSS can take all these kind of values. You can take like a RGB value, actual name. You can write down, for example, blue, red, green, or whatever, or you can have like this hexadecimal value. This was not the one I wanted, so this is the one I wanted. So if we save, there you go. Now you have the background color that you want. We need to give it a display of inline. No, before I say this, look, because anchor element, the A element that you see before, by default they have a display property of inline. And when they have like this display property of inline, if you want to give it a width, a padding or something, it doesn't work. So you need to transform it to a display inline block. So let's say, for example, right now as it is, this anchor element has a display property of inline. If I try to give it a width of, let's say, 150 pixels, if you refresh the page, nothing happens. But if I transform it into a display inline block and I saved it, refresh, look, now it has 150 pixels. This is what we wanted. So I actually don't want to give it a width, I want to give it a padding, and the padding that I want to give is 10 pixels. This will be 10 pixels top and bottom, and this will be 25 pixels left and right. So if you use only like two values, you can use the same for the margins as well. If you just like two values, the first value will be for top and bottom, and the second value it will be for left and right. If we refresh the page, there you go. Now we got this. Okay, so we want the color in there to be white. So the color is now white. And now I want it to give a little bit of a margin of 15 pixels and 10 pixels, right? So this, I'll give it a margin of 15 pixels on the top and bottom and 10 pixels on the right and left. So we can push this contact me button on the side here a little bit to the right. So if you refresh, you see now it's a little bit like to the side. Okay, so now we're gonna style this next button in here, which we give it a class of btn contact, and we're going to give it background color of white. We want the color to be some kind of green. So if I go in here and I put this one, let's save. There you go. This button in here, as we checked before, by default is also like a display property inline. So if you try to put a width or something, 200 pixels, it's not working. It's still the same. So if you put it a display of inline block and you save it, now you can see it has a width of 200 pixels. So let's remove this width and actually just put the same kind of padding that we had in the other button. Okay, so this is working fine. And now we want the font weight in here to be bold. And I want the same thing for this other button. So the font is going to be what is inside. You see, now the font is a little bit bolder than it was before. Finally, so if we want like to round these corners of the button, we should give it a border radius. Imagine that I give it like 5 pixels. If I refresh the page, look how the corners, they start to get rounded. If instead of 5 pixels, I put, for example, 20 pixels, now look how nice it looks. So we can do the same for this other button in here. Let's refresh. You see now these two buttons, they have like the rounded corners. This is because of the border radius. The more you increase the border radius, the more it's going to be like kind of an ellipse. Okay, so we got these at the moment, and we want to do now some hover. Look, now when you hover these, it doesn't show as a cursor, and we want it to be a cursor. Let me just put the href. So this will link to something else later on when we are building it. Let's refresh. Now you can see that you got the cursor pointer, but we also have this underline that we don't want. So for that, we just go in here and we're going to put the text decoration. Text decoration none, and we can just copy and paste this in here. There you go. Now the underline is just gone. If you have noticed, we have quite a lot of code that we are repeating here, the same for the button of view work and the button of contact me. So we can just like try to minimize the code this way. So in here on the top, if we target our button work, you put a comma and space, and then you put the button contact. This comma in here means that you are targeting both elements at the same time. If you go in here and you're going to put, for example, what's the same code on both of them? For example, we have text decoration on them that is the same. So I can just like remove these, and I can remove these. We got the border radius, which is the same. So we can just like put in here, remove this one and this one. We have the font weight bold, which is the same. So we can put this, remove this one and this one. The padding is also the same. So you can put in here, remove the padding. We got the display inline block. It's the same for both of them. So remove these and these. And there you go. So now, basically, these button work and this button contact, they have different values in here. So let them stay. And whatever they have in common, we are just like targeting in here with this selector. Let's save this, refresh, and it's still the same. So this is what we wanted. Okay, so now what's missing? If we're going to hover with the mouse, we want something to happen. So what we're going to do is, in here, we're going to target the button work, and we're going to say on hover, I want the background color when you hover with the mouse to be white. Oops. And I want the color to be this color in here. And I want the transition to be all. Whatever transitions we have is going to be all, and it's going to be half a second. So 0.5 seconds, and it's going to be on ease. is it's going to be like it's going to be smooth. If I refresh the page, there you go. You see, it's looking much better. And we can do the same now for the button contact. So just have to change this in here, contact, and if you refresh the page, oops, because I forgot to change the values. So now I want this background color to be this one, and oops, and I want the color to be this one, and there you go. And that's it. So that's it for now, guys, for the heroes section. All right, guys, so that's it for now. We just like finished styling our heroes section in here. So the next video will be about the About Me section, where we're going to code these, put this title, image, a little bit code about yourself. And that's it, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.